Those that don't know me, my name's Ollie from March's Energy Agency, and we've recently launched a new project called Telford Wrekin Energy Advice, or the T service. And we'll, over the next couple of years, we have some significant funding to provide some in-depth energy advice and support for residents across Telford and Wrekin. So this morning, we're just going to run through some of the issues, some of the help that's on offer, and we turn these talks. I'll sort of get warm and stay well talks. So hopefully there'll be some interesting information in here that people can take away, and we can obviously follow up any of that through our advice service, details of which will follow later in the presentation. So who are we? So March's Energy Agency are a registered charity and social enterprise based in Shrewsbury. Our job is to fix unsustainable energy, fuel poverty, improve energy security, and tackle climate change. So everything that we try to do those things in ways that improve places economically, socially, environmentally. We deliver Telford Energy Advice in partnership with the local council and a range of different partners, including Citizens Advice, Age UK, a lot of the local housing associations, and we run similar services in Shropshire and Staffordshire. So if anyone is joining from those areas, then there is an equivalent there, and a lot of what's on offer in Telford will be on offer in those areas as well. So what's the problem? The UK has some of the worst performing housing stock in Europe. We arguably have a broken energy market with 5 or 6 very large energy companies, which for a long time have not necessarily been on the side of the consumer. There's a cost of living crisis. Stagnant wages and rising bills haven't helped over the last couple of years. Obviously, we're in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has worsened that considerably. We're certainly seeing an increase in demand for some of our support at the moment in direct relation to that. Our infrastructure in terms of the pipes and the networks and the pylons where we get our electricity and gas from, they're aging quite rapidly and need investment. One of the ways that energy companies pay for that improvement work is through increasing bills and levies, which have a knock-on effect to the consumers at the end of the day. Locally, in Telford and Wrekin, at the latest count from the government statistics, around 6,600 households are believed to be in fuel poverty, so are believed to struggle to affordably heat their home. So that sort of signifies how much of a problem it is in the borough at the moment, just shy of 1 in 10 households. The impact of COVID probably going to increase that number significantly as people find that their financial circumstances are changing and they're starting to struggle a bit more. So Telford Energy Advice is our Telford-based service. I mentioned that we had some funding through the Energy Redress Programme, which is a mechanism where the energy companies are fined for bad behaviour, and we can bid for the money to deliver some services to help their customers. So it's a free energy efficiency and affordable warmth service. We provide free and always impartial advice to any residents. That includes tenants of social housing or private rented tenants. The bulk of our advice at the moment is via our free phone telephone number, which is on the screen, and we take a lot of email inquiries as well. As well as the advice over the phone line, we do a number of community events working in partnership with other organisations. Mentioned some of the housing associations. We often go out into the community and talk to their tenants, or we often work with people like Age UK to do coffee mornings. That's a little bit on hold at the moment, obviously, because of COVID-19, but as soon as it's safe for us to do so, we hope to get back out in the community and offer that sort of advice again. One of our roles as well is to help the local council maximise funding into the borough. We do that by helping them access government grants, energy company grants, and the like. Later this morning, I'll talk about some of those grants that are available to local residents, the qualifying criteria, and the sort of measures that we can help to install. I mean, our Telford Energy Advice model is heavily based on our work with other partners, obviously including Citizens Advice, Age UK. We do work with SAFA and the Royal British Legion as well, and that's particularly helpful when we're looking to install measures into people's homes. So if we're trying to replace a broken boiler, it might be that the government grants can pay 2/3 of the work. We often work with people like SAFA who can potentially top that up with 1/3 themselves, so that we can install a measure for free for a client. That's a really good sort of partnership that we've got there, and we do it with others as well across the borough. We also have quite a large home energy check programme where we can visit people and provide face-to-face advice at home. We'll also, during the home energy check programme, install some low-cost measures. There's a slide in a couple of minutes' time which demonstrates some of those, but we can install things like LED light bulbs, draft excluders, and they're free as well to the client. So the visit where we'd look through energy bills and provide advice face-to-face, and the low-cost measures are all funded through our programme. Again, it's currently on hold, unfortunately, because of the pandemic. But again, as soon as we can safely revisit people at home and they're comfortable with that, then that's a service that we'll be offering in the next couple of years as well. So what sort of advice and support can we provide? We offer general energy advice around energy use and how people can keep warm at home. That might be things about behaviour change, explaining how people's heating systems work, controlling or using their heating. We do support a lot of people who may be struggling to get the most out of their heating system, particularly if that's something like storage heaters or even some of the new renewable heating systems that people may have installed or that their landlords may have installed. We're dealing a lot at the moment with people who have billing issues or any other issues with their suppliers. Help people get the best deal by doing comparisons, making sure they're not paying over the odds for their energy. We help people to access heating and insulation grants. Mentioned a little bit earlier about replacement boiler grants. They are still around, helping people access grants for cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, boiler repairs, boiler servicing, a whole range of different grants that are available throughout the year that we can help people access. The Warm Homes discount is a big one. So the energy companies, most of the energy companies offer this discount every winter. So we do support residents to check their eligibility and apply for the discount, which is often discounted sometime in the winter to help against their bills. We work with Western Power Distribution quite closely to help people apply for the Priority Service Register. So this is a register of additional support for people who may have additional needs, whether that be because of a health condition or something like that. The Priority Service Register as well is mainly focused around disruptions to supply. So Western Power Distribution run the electricity network, and the register would notify them if there was a power cut in a certain area where there were vulnerable people. The register would be used to offer some additional support to people in that area. So I know that if the power goes off for a long time in an area and they're really struggling to get it back on, they will phone up customers directly. There's a dedicated phone line for those residents who are on the register, and sometimes they even work with local organisations like the Red Cross, who go door to door just to make sure people are okay. It's particularly important for people that use any medical equipment at home that relies on electricity, or for those that have stair lifts or electric beds, bath hoists, anything like that. So that's one that a really useful service that not a lot of people are aware of. So we do spend a lot of our time making sure people that need to be on the register are indeed registered. Obviously, when we're looking at underheating and people struggling to stay warm at home, we also cover sort of condensation and damp issues that might have arisen because of that in their home. So what's available now in regards to certain grants? There are a range of grants that are available sort of immediately or now, which cover loft insulation, cavity wall insulation if those haven't already been done. We have a project with Cadent where we can pay for some boiler repairs and boiler servicing, particularly if someone hasn't had their boiler serviced in a while, maybe because it's rather old and they're a bit worried that it might get condemned, or they may be left without heating. We have a project where we can fund a local engineer to service that, and if it's condemned, we would get that replaced using a grant straight away. We have a boiler replacement program, which is for people that find themselves in crisis without any heating, which is obviously really helpful when it comes to the winter months. We're working with another partner organisation on the Connected for Warmth scheme, which is installing first-time central heating. So if people qualify and they don't have a boiler and radiators at present, so maybe they've got a coal fire or electric portable heaters only, storage heaters, and they're close to the gas network, then we can work with them to fund a grant to connect gas to the property and install a new heating system. So that can be about £8,000 worth of work, which is normally fully funded, and a householder can save hundreds of pounds per year and stay a lot warmer at home with a more effective and more controllable heating system. If you think about switching from storage heaters over to a central heating system with a thermostat and a programmer, it's a lot more controllable and can save a lot of money and keep people a lot warmer at home. I have got a little note here about the Green Homes grants, which have been in the news in the last couple of weeks. They're due to start in September, and we believe that they will cover things like new double glazing, some of the more expensive insulation, such as solid wall insulation, which goes on the outside of the home. We don't have many details about this at the moment, except that it should pay for 2/3 of the cost, and there's going to be a way for people to apply online. There is also a separate part of the grants which will focus on those who are struggling the most, and they will be 100% funded, and we'll be working with the local council to try and help people access those as well. So I just wanted to flag that up. Unfortunately, we have about as much news as the newspapers had when it was announced at the moment, but we're trying to get as much information as we can, and we'll obviously include any of that advice within our sort of provision of advice through Telford Energy Advice. So in terms of qualifying criteria, in terms of physical grants like the first time central heating and the boiler replacement scheme that I mentioned, there is a list of benefits which people can qualify via. There's a big list of these here. I won't go through them, but they include things like pension credit, disability living allowance, attendance allowance, carers allowance, and as you can see on the right hand side, there are some specific armed services benefits as well, which have recently been introduced as well. So there is this qualifying criteria is a lot wider than it used to be. The government is trying to help more people, but on top of this, there is another criteria that the council have identified, which will qualify people who maybe don't receive any government help at the moment. So this might be a couple who are on state pension only, or someone who's on a low wage job, etc. So the Telford and Wrekin Council's criteria is due to be confirmed very soon, but we think it's going to be a net household income of £23,000 or less. If your household income is less than that, you would need an extra qualifying criteria, which is something like someone at home who's aged over 60, someone with a health condition, a disability, or children under 5, or they can live in a particularly inefficient home. So if their home's very old and hard to heat and they're under the income level, then they should qualify. Again, we can provide advice through our T service once this scheme is officially live, but I wanted to mention it now. A lot of people we speak to think that they might not qualify for support because they don't receive benefits, but there is definitely a route at the moment to allow people to qualify if that isn't the case. I mentioned the Home Energy Check programme that we're hoping to run in Telford as soon as we can. We have been doing some home energy checks across the borough in previous years. We work in partnership with Age UK, Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin on this, and with the LEAP service, which is a national programme. We offer face-to-face advice in the home and installation of low-cost measures, and these are sometimes key to identifying some more serious issues, which we can refer into Telford Energy Advice, and we can allocate a caseworker. It might be, say, an issue with their energy supplier. We can allocate a caseworker who can work that through to a resolution with the resident. So it's on offer for all residents across the borough, and we can take referrals directly through the T service. Obviously, again, it is currently on a pause due to the pandemic, but as soon as we can safely visit people at home, we intend to do so. So as well as the advice at home, we can install some low-cost measures. There is quite a long list of these, but I've included 3 or 4 of the ones that seem to be most popular. So we can install LED light bulbs throughout the house. If you needed 10 new light bulbs, we install 10. We've got a range of different fittings and sizes of those. The picture on the top right is a reflective radiator panel, which slip behind the radiators. They help to reflect some of the heat back into the room from external walls. They can be quite effective. Bottom left is a door brush, part of the draft proofing measures that we can install. And the bottom right is a heated seat cover. We had about 50 of these to offer to residents in a pilot project a couple of months ago. They fit on the chair, as you can see, cost about a couple of pence to run per day. So very, very efficient, and feedback from residents so far has been very positive, particularly for people that might have conditions such as arthritis. They've been really popular. So we do have access to some of those to install as well if people are interested. There is another, as I said, there is a lot more measures that we can install as well, but that's just a selection. So what's some of the other support that's available? We've talked about the home energy checks and the physical measures grants, but we can obviously do tariff and supplier comparisons, making sure people are on the best deal. Many people can save £100, £200 at least per year just by making sure that they're on the correct tariff, or that even if it's with their current supplier, most often than not. We mentioned the Warm Homes discount, which is the £140 discount for qualifying residents. They apply via their energy company. The Privacy Service Register, we talked about that in depth a little bit before, but again, we can discuss that and help people register. We provide financial help to people with their bills and payments. We do have some support at the moment to help people on prepayment meters who may have been affected by the COVID fund, and any other issues with suppliers that people may have. Maybe there's issues with a meter, or they haven't been billing you correctly. We can pick up those and again allocate a caseworker to try and work those through with an energy supplier. We're aware that lots of people have these issues. Talking to energy suppliers isn't always easy, so some of our trained staff can take that on your behalf and really get to grips with some of those issues. I've just got a quick case study here. It's actually from Shropshire, but I thought it was very relevant to today's talk. So Mr. and Mrs. W were told to contact our Keep Shropshire Warm service, which is our equivalent project in Shropshire, by a support worker from Royal British Legion back in March. The couple had been struggling without heating since the end of January, didn't have any funds to pay for a replacement. I think they'd had a couple of quotes from some of the energy companies that were out of their reach. So they got sort of state pensions, and Mr. W got an army pension. So they qualified under the council's criteria for support. So they weren't necessarily on benefits. We referred them into our emergency heating replacement scheme, which is the emergency central heating offer, and a replacement boiler was installed within 13 days, which is a very quick turnaround. This was an emergency scheme that we have access to in winter, and we heard from the support worker afterwards, who said she was really impressed by the speed of service, and Mr. and Mrs. W were delighted that we were able to help them out so quickly. So just to show that if you are in crisis, or you know someone who's struggling at home, give us a call. We'll accept any energy query. We'll always try and help, and there are schemes out there to help people. Even if you think initially that you might not qualify for the support, we'll go through that with you and see how we can help. So I thought that was a good case study to include this morning, but there's plenty of those that we can share as well. I did have some questions for any attendees to run through this morning, just to start to think about some of the things that we've introduced this morning. Wondered how many people shop around for their energy or switch suppliers. That is one of the most cost-effective ways to reduce your bills, particularly if you haven't switched for a couple of years. We are talking about a couple of £100 saving a year, which is relatively simple to do. And people like us at Telford Energy Advice, I know Citizens Advice, help residents around that as well. We mentioned the Warm Homes discount. I wondered if anyone had heard of that or applied for that before and received that discount on their bills. Talked about the boiler servicing issue that we sometimes find, where people have put off the servicing of their boilers, maybe because they don't have the money to replace it. But I just wondered whether people regularly get their boilers serviced, and it's really important to do that to make sure it's still operating safely. We're getting queries about smart meters. The UK smart meter rollout is still ongoing. It's a little bit delayed, but the intention is for everyone to have a smart meter within the next couple of years. So again, wanted to ask if anyone's got any experiences of that or had any particular questions. Linked to the smart meter question, I suppose, is whether people find it easy to provide their meter readings and understand their bills. So a lot of people that we speak to have energy accounts with their suppliers that are quite wayward. It might be that they're using a lot more than they're paying for, or they're paying for more than they use. And that is often because their account isn't up to date. Their supplier doesn't necessarily know how much energy they're using, and things like that. So again, that was a sort of discussion point there. And the priority service register that we mentioned around the extra support, particularly in power cuts. Wondered whether anyone is aware of that, and wanted to flag that up as something that, again, we can relatively quickly register people for and it's a really important service, that one. So those are some of the questions for the group. And if people have any other questions, then please feel free to fire away. Thanks a lot.